Welcome to Breakthrough Entrepreneur Podcast, where purpose meets profit and limitations become opportunities. I'm your host, David Shinsky, entrepreneur, speaker, coach, and founder of Career Performance Institute. Each week, we'll explore the mindset, strategies, and success principles that help entrepreneurs break through barriers, build thriving businesses, and create lives of greater freedom, impact, and fulfillment. Whether you're launching your first venture, growing your brand, leveraging AI and automation, or turning your expertise into influence and income, you're in the right place. Through inspiring conversations, practical insights, and real world success stories, you'll gain the tools and confidence to move beyond what's holding you back and step into what's possible, because your breakthrough starts with one decision: to stop playing small and start building the business that life you were meant to create. So grab your notebook, open your mind, and let's build your next breakthrough together. So welcome to the Breakthrough Entrepreneur Podcast. And today's topic is the side hustle to freedom and starting your own business for people with disabilities. Because in so, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's episode, which is anyone who's ever thought, I'd love to start my own business, but I can't afford to quit my job. It's also for professionals with disabilities who are looking for more flexibility, financial independence, and control over their careers. And one of the reasons that I'm talking about this is so many times we get a job and we may not like the job, or we may have ideas of thinking of becoming entrepreneurs, but fear keeps us from going from where we are to where we want to be. And this is also a mindset, because fears keep us from doing the things we truly want to do. The truth is that most successful businesses don't begin as full-time ventures. They begin as side hustles, small ideas nurtured during evenings, weekends, and spare moments until they grow into sustainable businesses. If you have a disability, a side hustle can provide something even more valuable than extra income. It's a choice. It allows you to create work around your life instead of forcing your life around your work. And today, we'll discuss how to transition from employee to entrepreneur without the unnecessary risk, how to build confidence before making the leap, and how to create a business that supports your goals, health, and lifestyle. And let me start by telling you a story that back in the 20th century, when I entered the workforce in the late 1970s, you did not have the Americans with Disabilities Act. What you had was the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. And I was referred to rehabilitation services. And rehabilitation services is their employment specialist is geared towards helping you find a job. They don't really talk to you about things like what are your true interests and where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years from now. Their whole idea is that they are guaranteed so much money from the government and they have to show a 95% success rate. So they're going to pigeonhole you into something that they believe you belong in rather than helping you build something based on your own goals. And many years ago, I had an idea to set up a nonprofit that would serve people with disabilities who wanted to become entrepreneurs, because when society themselves don't encourage you to see yourself in the way that you yourself see yourself or see your potential, they base it on your grades, which I can tell you that my grades never truly show what I was truly capable of. And it's also society's attitude towards how they see you and what they think you're capable of. And also their fears that you might be more successful than they are. And I had no family support systems or encouragement, and I basically knew I had certain skills, I had an education, I had things that I wanted to do, but I didn't have those opportunities to create. And what happened was that when I lost my job with the state, I couldn't find anything else. And I decided first that I knew I had training to do group therapy, but I didn't have the master's and I didn't have the PhD. So what I decided to do was I initially contacted certain agencies and seemed to be stonewalled because the type of therapy that I wanted to offer was certain modalities that were popular but not in the region where I was living. And also, when I look back and I look at the fact that I had one of the things that I enjoyed doing when I was in school was when I had to give a book report and would stand up in front of the group and talk about it. And that's when I thought of becoming a professional speaker. And the fact that my background was mental health and psychology and using assessment profiles, what I also looked at were companies like Personal Dynamics Institute, which had the package training programs, and at the time also it was called Performax, and it was initially assessment profiles that used the DISC, the listening, various types of assessment profiles that help you understand your personality. And to understand the DISC means if you look at the Myers-Briggs that talk about the E, the I, the judging, the emotional, and in the DISC it's the D, I, S, and C, and it's also helps you understand where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, how to work with someone who has totally the opposite, because we all need someone to help us to grow our business. And to do so means the best way to do it is with someone that can help you take your business from where you are based on your strengths to where you need to be based on their strengths, because what you're doing is working together as a team. Now, let's talk about why a side hustle matters, and that many people think that entrepreneurship starts with quitting their job. In reality, it usually starts much earlier. First of all, when I started my business, I had no choice. If I'd had the opportunity to have worked long enough to build up some financial security and then start my business slowly and be able to invest in it, I would have been able to really get where I wanted to be. But it was all done offline as a speaker. I attended Toastmasters. I attended National Speakers Association. I learned the platform skills. I learned how to build a speech, but I didn't have the money to really package and put all that together in a media kit. And how I got into podcasting, which at the time that I started it 20 years ago, it was really just known as internet radio, because it was all done through the internet. It was all done through talking. And today, when you think of a podcast, you think of a host, and you think how they invite guests on and how they they do it on a specific topic that is important, but it's also a very different format. So understanding the formats that you use in podcasting is also important. But let's talk about how to start a business as a side hustle. The first thing you need to do is test the business idea, develop new skills, build confidence, create an additional income stream, learn marketing and sales, grow your customer base, relying on business income. For people with disabilities, this also offers flexibility that traditional employment may not. You decide when you work, where you work, how you work, who you serve. What's a powerful advantage? Now, how I understand it is that, like, my wanting to set up my nonprofit was to serve people with disabilities who fell through the cracks, who didn't meet the criteria that you had to fit for rehabilitation services, and also those people with disabilities who wanted more than just to work for someone for an income, that wanted to really challenge themselves, because many people with disabilities are underemployed, because even though we have the Americans with Disabilities Act today, companies, especially as the latter part of the 20th century and into the 21st century, there's no longer any guaranteed jobs. You work for a small business, and you're limited into how you grow. The idea here is for you to look at ways that you can expand and increase how you serve the community. And some people need flexible schedules. Others need remote work. Others need additional breaks for specialized equipment. When you own the business, you design the environment. You can build a business that works with your energy instead of against it. That's not just entrepreneurship, that's independence. So choosing the right side hustles. One mistake many people make is chasing trends. Instead, start with your strengths. Ask yourself, what skills do people already ask me for? What problems can I solve? What experience do I already have? Could my career knowledge become consulting? Could my hobby become a business? Could my personal story become a coaching or speaking? My expertise already has value. And here are some side hustles ideas that are just some possibilities. And this is kind of how I got into it, but it was also a skill that I knew were my strengths. And you have to look and see what it is that are your strengths, because all of us are unique. All of us have something that we excel at that someone else doesn't. Coaching, consulting, public speaking, podcasting, online courses, freelance writing, graphic design, virtual assistants, social media management, business coaching, disability consultant. And one of the things that I did as I 20, 30 years ago, as I was starting my business, knowing I actually started working with an organization that served children with developmental disabilities, and my salary was actually coming through their fundraising arm. And when their fundraising arm basically canceled their program with them, that cost me my contract with them. And it takes funds to put together a media package. How I got into podcasting early on was that when it was all nothing but audio, there was no video, and I needed a media kit. By setting up that podcast, then I had something to offer clients to show them what my specialty was, what my niche is, what I could talk about. So understanding that, and career coaching, AI implementation services, digital products, membership communities. Notice something? Many require very little startup capital. Knowledge has become one of today's most valuable assets. Remember, we now live in the information age, and so much comes at us at one time. We have to be able to filter out what's noise and what's important, and understanding this. Now we're going to talk about starting while you're employed. Remember, you should never totally give up a job until the business you're working in far surpasses the income you're making in the job, because you never want to leave yourself with no income. Starting while employed, you don't need to choose between your job and your dream. Use your job to fund your business. Dedicate consistent time every week. Even 5 to 10 focused hours can create significant progress over several months. Consistency beats intensity. Building your early brand. Before selling anything, start becoming known. Create a LinkedIn profile that reflects your expertise, a simple website, helpful social media posts, educational videos, a podcast, a newsletter. People buy from people they know and trust. Authority comes before opportunity. So finding your first clients. Your first clients rarely come from advertising. They come from relationships. Tell people what you're building. Reconnect with former co-workers. Join professional associations. Attend networking events. Speak at local organizations. One of the things that is required when you join Toastmasters, or especially when you are in it, a member of the National Speakers Association, working on your CSP, your Certified Speaking Professional, is that you have to do so many free speeches, because that's how you gain the experience and you learn how to stand in front of a group and present without feeling nervous. Remember, You're never totally going to not be nervous. But if you understand and get the experience doing it with smaller groups, it gives you more confidence as you begin to go with the larger groups. Every conversation becomes an opportunity. Become a guest on podcasts. Now, we're going to talk about managing fears because those fears put you in the position of keeping you from reaching your goals that you are meant to have. Fear is normal. Everyone wonders, what if I fail? Instead, ask yourself, what if I succeed? Most entrepreneurs aren't fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make their decisions. Action creates confidence. Now, remember this, and this is why you should never give up your day job or your income until your income from your side hustle and your own business far surpasses, is because there's never a straight road to build a business. There's going to be zigs, there's going to be zags. You're going to try something and it's going to fail. But don't look at that failure as something to stop you from making that choice. Look at it as a way to teach you something, because if it doesn't work one way, it may work another way. Planning your transition. Don't quit too soon. Create milestones. For example, consistent monthly revenue, emergency savings, repeat customers, predictable marketing systems, business expenses covered. These benchmarks reduce stress and make the transition much smoother. Building around your disability. Your disability isn't necessarily a limitation. It gives you insight. It gives you experience. It gives you empathy. It gives you perspective. Many businesses succeed because their founders understand a community better than anyone else. You lived experience may become your greatest competitive advantage. That's so important to understand, that what makes you different and what gives you an advantage over your competition. Creating multiple streams of income. Don't depend on one source of revenue. Consider combining speaking, coaching, courses, sponsorships, affiliate income, digital downloads, memberships, consulting, multiple streams that create greater stability. Now, let's talk about your first 90 days, because if you look at that first 90 days, that's when you're going to put your most effort into it. And if you put the most effort into it and really build on it within the first 90 days, then it sets everything up for the rest of the year. So here's a simple roadmap. Month one, create your niche. Validate your idea. Define your ideal client. Month two, create your website. Develop one offer. Begin marketing. Month three, start serving clients. Gather testimonials. Improve your systems. And then repeat. Small actions become big businesses. Always recognize that you have the opportunity to grow, to expand, to be the person you want to be, and take your business to the next level. But it's always understanding how to get started. And those first 90 days, are really important because they set the tone of what's going to happen. Another thing you should do is always make sure you have contracts. As in the coaching business, as if you're a course creator, if you write articles, there are many ways that you can take. And now I'm going to tell you a little story about someone that I met many, many years ago. And he worked for, at the time it was called Earthlink. And Earthlink let go of like 90,000 people. And how he started his business was first, he went and started building websites because back then you didn't have the technology to just drag and drop and create websites so easily as you can today. And it was very technical, and you had to be able to put code in, to, which is very different than how you do it today. And so he started doing that kind of business. And he had someone that was a plumber. And what he did was how he created the extra income was that the plumber needed someone to go out and do the legwork for him to get him the clients. So he started building a website for him and started marketing him to get him clients. And that got him a second income coming in. Then what he did was he looked at the skills that he had and what he was doing for Earthlink, and he was always a troubleshooter for them. So then what he started doing was going out and repairing computers, and that was the third income that he had. So that was 1, 2, and 3 incomes. He created 3 multiple streams of income for himself. And then if it was within a certain distance, it was one price. If it was much further out, he added another fee to it. And remember, these are some ways that you can look to create multiple streams of income in your one thing that you do. Now, let's look at the goal isn't simply becoming self-employed. The goal is creating freedom. Freedom of schedule, freedom of income, freedom of purpose, whether your side hustle earns an extra $500 each month or eventually replaces your full-time income, you're creating options. Every successful entrepreneur started exactly where you are today with an idea and the courage to begin. Your breakthrough doesn't require perfection. It requires progress. And I would like to thank you for joining me on the Breakthrough Entrepreneur Podcast, or rather, the Breakthrough Entrepreneur Success. I hope today's episode inspired you to think bigger, take action, and move one step closer to the business and life that you envision. Remember, breakthrough doesn't happen by accident. They happen by preparation, which meets persistence. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another entrepreneur who could benefit from this message. For additional resources, tools, training, and opportunities to work with me, visit Career Performance Institute and connect with our growing community of entrepreneurs committed to creating success without limits. And you can go to the website, that's CoachDavidashinsky.com. And until next time, keep believing in your vision, Keep taking action and never let obstacles define your future. I'm David Ashinsky, and this is the Breakthrough Entrepreneur to Success, turning expertise into influence, impact, and income. Now, each week, we'll explore the strategies, mindset shifts, and proven success principles that help entrepreneurs overcome obstacles, seize opportunities, and achieve meaningful results. Whether you're launching your first, grow your brand, increasing your income, or scaling the next level, you'll find practical insights and actionable solutions that you can implement immediately.